We want to, first of all, on behalf of the entire team of AIESR, Amity University, Uttar Pradesh, we welcome you, ma'am, and we are so, so grateful that you've taken out the time. And the entire team knows that behind the scenes also, it is ma'am's hand that keeps us going and checking, and that's why we aim at perfection. Every little thing, and Sagina has been assisting us all through. But we have seen the light of day, and this workshop on academic writing, this 30-hour workshop, has only taken off due to, of course, the blessings of our honorable founder president, our ever inspiring chancellor, Dr. Atul Chauhan. But it wouldn't have been possible without the constant support and guidance. And every word of what I'm saying, I actually know because I've been doing the work at the back end, thanks to our ever inspiring, motivating Vice Chancellor, ma'am, Dr. Balvinder Shukla. And once again, I want to welcome you most heartily, although this is your program in a manner of speaking. And my very dear students who are here, and we are very glad to see the huge numbers in which you have turned up today. My teammates, the faculty members who will be conducting these sessions, and we look forward to these 30 hours of very enriching workshop on academic writing. And you all know, as Stephen King had said, if you want to be a writer, you must do two things above all others: read a lot and write a lot. So we will be focusing on writing and writing well, because as you know, the two productive skills in English are speaking and writing. Reading and listening are only receptive skills. And you will go through what the nitty gritties of good writing is, the building blocks, the main two being grammatical structures and vocabulary. Of course, language and style is so important, and not to forget punctuation. In fact, I would like to quickly touch upon that very famous book, which I recommend to everyone: Eats, Shoots, and Leaves, The Zero Tolerance Approach to Punctuation by Lynn Truss. Many of you would have read it already. And that dedicates a chapter each to different grammatical forms and punctuation. So apostrophe, comma, semicolon, colon, etc. It's a book that every reader, and especially those who aspire to be good writers, should read. In course of the workshop, you will be given invaluable inputs on writing an academic research paper. And one of our colleagues who will be taking the sessions has, to her credit, a book published on the subject. So you're getting it from the best. Apart from that, of course, there will be report writing and much, much more. I don't want to take up time, and I don't want to be a spoiler by giving you the entire content. But suffice to say, it will be a very exciting journey. All the best. And may I now request our Honorable Vice Chancellor, ma'am, to address the target audience, the faculty and students, and bless them with her kind words. Ma'am.
Thank you very much, Dr. Prasad, my very esteemed colleagues, the most important, the students. First of all, I extend a very warm welcome to all of you for this very important workshop on academic writing as a value addition course. I know this is the time which is the toughest time we all are facing, the second wave of the COVID pandemic, which has been very, very tough. And, we have been hearing a lot how the society, how the people are struggling, facing the difficulty, and managing and supporting each other. The university also came up with the number of initiatives supporting right from the creating the help desk with the credible, verifiable leads can be provided to the students, faculty, staff who need maybe the oxygen, maybe hospital information or other aspect, our Honorable Chancellor has further announced that in case any student lost a parent in this pandemic time and due to COVID pandemic and was supporting the education of the student, the Amity University will take care of the remaining academic fee of the remaining part of the program. So that's all is the that how that we can make our student worry free and support them in the difficult times. But that's what is called the Amity family, and that's what called the belongingness, and that's what the togetherness. But no matter how difficult situations are there, at the same time, the Amity University is trying to uh, develop the competency and skills which are needed in the students to be to lead to move to a particular profession. And because of the industry 4.0 number of skills, the new skills have come. But however, the two skills are very important. As Dr. Prasad was saying that the listening skills and the most important writing skills. How can you have that academic writing? Academic writing is very different than the you're writing a letter to a friend or something like that. Academic writing is very, very important. So when it comes to the students, when you take the your academic writing is right from your term paper to your summer internship report to your major project or your dissertation to also writing a research papers or also even maybe you are making a proposal um, for an organization for any aspects. How do you write that you are your research writing is accepted by the within the target audience? It may be that your faculty is looking for a nice term paper from you, or you are working in an industry as an internship. So your supervisor is looking for a good technical report, having that academic and research aspect and making some sense. Or maybe that you are writing a part of your academic program as a major project or minor project or a research paper. If you are the student of the final semester, you may be writing a project or the research paper for the conference or something. It could be anything. But how do you write? How do structure? The most important comes what is the, whenever you choose the objective, it's very, very important. If, and then if you are clear on the objective, how do you search the what all has been done in this area, the research review when we talk about, even if you're writing a term paper, even if you're writing your summer internship project, you would like to know that what all has happened earlier. Or your faculty has given some assignment, you have to conduct a research. You need to focus. I shared with you that there was a student who was given an assignment to the faculty on the listening skills. And the student, what the student had done, he just went to the Google, this thing, and he did the search, the listening skills. And whatever he got the first thing and he just copied and submitted. But that has not built the writing skill of a student. On the, this is what the faculty looking, how do you look at the various material available in various sources, even if you are using the Google resources, but then how do you read that? How do you analyze that? And what do you grasp out of it? And then you write in your own language. So when developing the writing skills, that means how you can have command over language. How can you have command over the subject? That will only come once you have read and understood. And how you can have command of, over structuring your writing, that how the, you know, body of the whole writing will come, the introduction to the next, various whatever the your aspects are, then finally when you're concluding it. So if you're not able to build that command on various aspects, you cannot be the good academic writer. So therefore, I'm sure that this 5 days workshop, the 30 hours value addition workshop, which is being conducted by Dr. Vanita Prasad and her team, are going to discuss on various facets of the academic writing, so that you can become a good creative writer, and you are able to focus on the what is the objective or what is the focus of a particular topic or a particular theme or the area, so that you are not digressing from the main theme or main aspect what has been given, because it's also very important how much the time you have got, because everything is linked with the time. If you have got 1 month to write something, you will write very differently. If you have 1 week to write, you will write differently. If you have 1 day to write, you will write differently. And also the how much to write, that also is whether you have to write the 1,000 words or your 2,000 words or 3,000 words or the 5,000 words. Again, also that accordingly you will get into the detail, but your gist cannot go away whether it is one paragraph writing or it is whether it's a 5,000 words writing. So gist or the core, how can you protect the gist and core? That's also really important. With this, I would like to wish all the best to all the students. Please take care of yourself, your family. Stay safe, stay healthy. And if you have any difficulty, please feel free to speak to your program leader, your head of institution, or Dean Student Support and Academic Affairs, Dr. Alpana Kakkar, or you can, if you have you're feeling having anxiety or anything, always feel free to contact the Amity Center for Counseling and Guidance. And if you have any other, you can call always the student support services, which are also working. And we are getting a lot of input from the students. So with this, once again, I wish you all the best. And I congratulate Dr. Vinita Prasad and her team for putting this workshop together, and Dr. Reena Huda for coordinating it and ensuring that all the workshops are conducted on time, for adding value to the students one side and also adding value to the faculty. So all the best.
I think I was on mute. Thank you very much, ma'am, for those encouraging words. And yes, that very important point that good writing, one has to always remember the time. And that's something as examinees we often forget. The time factor is so important. Depends on whether we have 3 hours or a day or 3 days. We have to tailor our writing, customize it to the time given. So thank you once again, ma'am. And now we move on to the first session of the workshop, which will be conducted by Dr. Shweta Tiwari. Over to you, Shweta.
Thank you, ma'am. So have the students joined? I can see there are 112 attendees here. Shall I start?
Yes, please.
All right. Good afternoon, everyone. I am Dr. Shweta Tiwari, Assistant Professor, Amity Institute of English Studies and Research. I extend a warm welcome to all the participants on the first day of this wonderful workshop on academic writing, Learning to Write for Academic Success. I hope all of you are safe and healthy during these testing times. Talking of the times, it is certainly unprecedented. We are all bound to stay indoors, and it is taking a toll on our physical and mental health. But if we come to look at the brighter side of the whole scenario, the pandemic has also given us a lot of time to reflect, to think, and to create. And as I address young students here who are all potential scholars, it becomes imperative for me to talk about something which has always been very relevant, and that is academic writing. But before I begin, I want to know about your understanding of academic writing. How do you differentiate between academic and non-academic writing? Please raise your hand and I will ask the IT support to unmute you.
Good afternoon, ma'am. Ma'am, I believe that academic writing is a more formal kind of writing and it is mostly applied to a non-fiction or a creative style of writing, whereas an informal writing can have a personal touch to it. And academic writing is mostly based for research papers or for other purposes that are academic based. So when we write a novel, a poem, or a short story, it's more on the informal side. So I would say that it's non-academic.
Okay, so Shivani, are you trying to say that a part of your personality does not reflect in academic writing? If you're writing a research paper, will it not reflect what you feel about a particular topic?
Yes, ma'am, it will. I just believe that academic writing is a more higher level kind of writing, and it requires a lot of work, rereading, editing, proofreading. Whereas when we write a non-academic piece of writing, it can be something that's personalized and has a personal touch to it. Whereas an academic writing is often read by a lot of people, and it is very pertinent to put forth not just your ideas, but research that others have done on the same idea and same thought. So it requires a
All
lot of
right.
work.
Fine. So this workshop is going to walk you through different aspects of academic writing. As is already informed, there will be discussion about research papers, MLA, punctuation, sensory writing, so on and so forth. Before we begin, I would also like to inform all of you that certificates will be issued to the participants whose attendance will be more than 90% and who clear their final assessment test. So I request all of you to be attentive through the workshop and make the maximum out of it. Without further ado, let us move on. See, before we start talking about academic writing, different approaches to academic writing, it is important that we evaluate ourselves. How well we can handle academic writing and something as simple as report writing. So let this be your pre-assessment. I'm going to give you a question and you have to write a report. And please don't take more than 20 minutes. Ideally, it can be finished within 10 minutes, but I will give you 10 minutes extra. And in 20 minutes, write a report. I'm just going to share my screen. Please let me know once it's visible. All right, okay. So here is a pre-assessment test for all of you. You have to write a report on any one of the following. The first question says, your college has adopted a village as a part of social responsibility project. Students teach the children of that village on a regular basis. Write a report for your college magazine on various programs organized there in 150 to 200 words. Please stick to the word limit, or you can write a report on any departmental event. We have so many events. I'm especially talking about the students who are from the department. We have so many events. So you can pick up any of your choice and write a report on it. And as I already told you, you have 20 minutes. And after you finish writing, you can post your script or you can mail it directly to me at stiwari6@amity.edu. So please start writing. You have exactly 20 minutes. It's 2:17 according to my watch. So I would return back to the root question. What do you understand by academic writing? Can some other students answer too? I've already heard the answers from two students. Gurjeet, can the IT team please unmute him? Gurjeet Singh.
Am I audible now?
Yes, Gurjeet, you are.
I was saying that the purpose is different, the goal is different in academic writing and other writings, that's all.
Okay, would you like to throw some more light on it, Gurjeet?
No, ma'am. I just know the goal is different.
Okay, so the goal is different. Okay. So as per Shivani, it is more formal in nature, and as per Gurjeet, the purpose of writing is different or the goal is different. All right, Tanya?
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, I would like to add on what Shivani and Gurjeet already said, and that is basically the format in which the academic writing is written. The format is very, very important because it involves all the details that are mentioned in the MLA format. We have to take care of the format, the sources from which we borrow our ideas, and the paraphrasing and everything. So the major difference that plays in the academic writing and a personalized writing is the format.
The format. Okay. Yeah. Nihal?
Good afternoon, ma'am.
Yes, good afternoon.
Yes, ma'am, I would just like to extend Shivani's point of view about academic writing. According to me, the most important thing in academic writing is that it should be based on accurate fact and figures. Like in other writing, for example, in entertainment writings, we generally focus less on fact and figures, and we more express our own views, our own opinions. But in academic writing, there should not we should not give much focus to, we should not give much focus to it. We should not give much focus to our own opinions, our own beliefs. It should mostly based on facts and figures, and that should be accurate, that should be more and more accurate. You can say ki accuracy pe we should be more focused.
Okay, so
Thank you, ma'am.
here we have discussed about the formal tone, the purpose of writing being different from personal writing. Apart from that, we have also seen that it should be more, you can say, driven by facts. Instead of your subjective viewpoint, instead of what you feel personally, it should be substantiated by facts and figures. Okay, so I'm going to share my screen again. I have a PPT for all of you, which is going to make it easier for you to understand what academic writing is. What are the different approaches to academic writing? This session is primarily going to be an introductory session, followed by more comprehensive views on different kinds of academic writing. So this is just going to introduce you to academic writing and the different ways in which you can start with your academic writing. So writing, why, what, and how of writing. As we've already discussed, let us look at what is academic writing. Academic writing is a writing that is clear. Please focus on these words: clear, concise, focused, structured, and substantiated with evidence. So why I'm asking you to focus on these words is because they are important. They will tell you what is the difference between a non-academic and academic writing. It goes without saying that as far as communication is concerned, it should be clear, it should be concise. But since we're talking about academic writing, which is more formal in nature, it is very important that it should be clear. By clarity, I mean there should be no discrepancy in your idea. Everything should be written in a way that it speaks for itself. If there is any vague detail, any confusion, any problem in presenting the idea, it is not going to deliver the message that you intend to the readers. It should be concise. What do we mean by concise? You should not add unnecessary details. As Honorable Vice Chancellor Ma'am rightly said, the main thing is what you should add and what you shouldn't. Conciseness is important. Shortness is important. Brevity is the soul of expression, they say. So the information has to be packed, it has to be concise, only the relevant data, only the important details must be added when you are writing for academic purpose. It should be focused. You must have come across research papers where you feel that a lot of unnecessary details have been added. There's a lot of repetition, and something which is known to everyone has been given a lot of stress in that paper, and hence you discard it as academically poor research paper. This happens because the focus is missing in the paper. I'm going to take all the questions later. If you have any questions, please note it down and we will deal with it towards the end of the session. So the writing to be focused is very important. Gurjeet said that the purpose is different, and so did Shivani. She said when you write poetry or you write short story, it is to express yourself. If I ask you to write a poem about a topic, say rain, so you're free to express yourself, how you look at rain, what are the kind of emotions that rain incites in you. But it is not the same in case of academic writing. There you have to be very focused. The topic is not so subjective, so to say. It can be about a contemporary relevant issue. It can be about a political issue, a social issue, a novel, etc. that you've read. So writing should be focused. You have to keep your focus intact. It should be structured. Some writings do not have a proper introduction, body, and conclusion, and hence you're very quick to conclude that this writing is not structured. The proper structure is the introduction, where you tell the readers about the topic, you introduce the topic, then comes the body, wherein you extend the topic, you give certain points about the topic, and then you properly conclude whatever you have discussed in the body. So that is the proper structure you have to follow when you are talking about an academic writing. And very important, as was just discussed, it should be substantiated with evidence. Sometimes when you read a research paper, you feel that it is very subjective in nature. The writer has given a lot of emphasis to what he or she feels about a certain character or a situation or the themes of that novel, and there is no evidence whatsoever. So, because I believe that is why I'm saying is a very nice stand. So sometimes in your Viva also, when you're asked a question that why have you written it in this way, you say because I feel so. That is not the right way to approach an academic writing. Whenever you are writing for academic purpose, make sure you have ample data to substantiate your argument. You support your argument with suitable facts, figures, findings, etc. It's only then it is going to add vigor to whatever you are discussing. So we have come to know that academic writing is any writing, or any writing can be qualified as an academic writing if it is clear, if it is concise, if it is focused, if it is structured, and it is substantiated with evidence. Okay. Next, we move on to academic writing has a formal tone. However, it does not require sentences, completed vocabulary. The second part is more important than the first part. I have students who come to me and who ask me that should research papers full of pedantic jargons? Should we write long-winded sentences to make a research paper more appealing? If thundering language is absent in a research paper, is it not worthy enough? The answer is there is nothing like that. You don't have to focus on writing long sentences or writing in a very thundering language or using unnecessary jargons. Instead, your focus should be on formal tone. If you're comfortable in writing short sentences, which are more meaningful than long-winded sentences, it's better you stick to those. Okay, all right, okay. So academic writing has a formal tone. It is very important that you maintain a formal tone. There shouldn't be any informal or use of loose language, slang language. And this goes without saying. This is true for any sort of formal writing, whether you're writing a research paper or you're writing a dissertation or you're simply writing a report or an email. Whenever we discuss about formal writing or academic writing, the tone has to be formal. You cannot make use of any loose language, but it is not important that you have to essentially induct long sentences or complicated vocabulary. The examples of academic writing can be report, abstract, research paper, dissertation, thesis, etc. Let us move on. Elements of academic writing, key elements of good academic writing. Now, there is a reason why I've used the word good here. See, you must have come across research, or let's say feminist inquiry in the poetry of Imtiaz Harkar. So you have come across two papers on the same topic, but you say paper A is better than paper B just after reading the first paragraph of the research paper. Why does that happen? Can anyone tell me? What are the different parameters based on which we decide that this is a good or a bad academic writing? Please raise your hand.
Ma'am, the first 2 points that come in my mind while judging a good academic writing will be, the first point would definitely be the accuracy, and the second point would be relevance. And the other point that you have already mentioned, that there should not be unnecessary use of jargons, or you can say there should not be too much of thunderous writing. Such things should be avoided. But the first 2 points would be, first accuracy and second will be relevance.
Accuracy and relevance.
Thank you,
okay. Ajay? Okay. And Khushbu?
Yes, ma'am, I am there.
Yes. Yes, Khushbu.
I would
Please
say,
go ahead.
I would say some elements should, conclude type of, we can say some key terms. There should be some specific key terms which should be included in the elements of academic writing. Plus, I would say there should be, proper sources. We should mention proper sources, like we have read some article and then we have written something our own, and we should just mention proper sources and all. so that it can help us.
Okay. All right. So you're talking about the formatting part. Okay. Yes, Umama?
Yes, ma'am. So according to me, if I look into a research paper and I want to compare it, I would definitely look into the introduction portion, which would be in itself be complete enough to tell me what exactly it has in it. Also, I would also look into the different methods in which my or the other two research papers would be organized. Like,
All right.
is it holistically approachable or analytically approachable or something like that?
Okay, so Mama, what according to you is a poor introduction? So you said that you would approach the introduction first of all, and you will decide that which out of the two research papers is better. So which one would you grade as poor?
Well, ma'am, it should be complete in itself, as in I should get to know that what this research paper has in itself. If it does not do justice in that sort, then I think if I'll not be able to see each and every element or point in that introduction portion, then I think I won't be able to understand it. Or maybe I should
All right.
end up losing the important things also. Maybe it would be a great paper in itself, but the introduction must have loosened its end.
All right. All right. Okay. So you're trying to say that introduction should be concise instead of delving on unnecessary things. And right in the introduction, you should be convinced that it's going to be a good paper because it comprises the details that has been mentioned. Okay.
Yes, ma'am. It should be an umbrella part.
Okay. All right. Shivani?
Ma'am, adding to what Umama said, a good introduction and a good conclusion as well is very important. And I think the way by which I judge a good introduction and a good conclusion is by the language that is used, the length of the sentences, and how the author is putting forth his or her ideas. Like sometimes there are words that are very commonly used, which I feel might not be the best for formal use. So there might be a better word for that with the same meaning that is maybe more appropriate for a formal approach. So if the author is using such words to put forth his or her idea, and the way how they have connected the ideas, like by if it's a long sentence, how they have broken down into smaller sections where all he or she has quoted from, and if they have referred other papers of the same topic, etc. Those are the parameters that I keep for judging a good academic paper.
All right. Okay. So that's right, Shivani. And in fact, when you say that, the word nice comes to my mind. The word nice is so commonly used because we all use a social media platform. And the first word that comes to our minds is that this is so nice. But nice shouldn't be really used for formal purposes. Instead of that, we can switch on to some synonyms that are better and more formal. Okay. So now let us look at the slide, key elements of good academic writing. The first is objective in nature. We've already talked about this. To write from a subjective viewpoint is one of the major barriers to good academic writing. As a research scholar, you should take all the points, all the opinions, all the aspects in mind while you're writing a paper. Just because you have a unidimensional approach towards a topic. For example, you might be a feminist. It is not advisable that you let that approach of yours color all your judgments, or you don't look at a character or a situation from an open mind because you are driven by that school of thought. This is just an example. So objective position is advisable instead of being subjective, instead of writing from emotions. It is better that you stick to reason, and your academic writing should be as objective, as formal, as detached, as clinical as possible. Next is formal tone. We have talked about this. You shouldn't make use of informal tone or any sort of slang language in your paper. It has to be strictly formal, and you have to follow all the guidelines of academic writing. Then we come to the third point, which is specific. Now, here is a point which is very simple to look at, but the most difficult to follow, I would say. Whenever we're asked to speak or we're asked to write, we get carried away. If the word limit specifically says that you have to write it in 200 words, we still come across scripts that will write it in 500 words, 600 words. That's because we don't know where we should cut short the argument, which are the more important points that should be included. And through the course of this workshop, that's exactly what you're going to be taught. It's not only important to write well, but it is also important to edit well. You need to write the first draft, then go through it after some time, and you will feel that you have written a lot of irrelevant things. There's a lot of repetition which can be avoided, and that is going to make your academic writing more specific in nature. Next is processing information correctly. Now, a major lapse or lacuna in your research also takes place because the information is not processed correctly. Sometimes what happens is that you pile up a lot of information and you don't know from which source had you taken it, what was the context of writing this, and you're not able to incorporate it properly in your research paper. So the first thing that you have to do is, if there is a topic in your mind and you want to write a research paper or an abstract or a dissertation on that topic, and you are collecting data, you are referring to multiple sources, you're reading research papers or research material which is already available on that topic, it's the best practice that you write it down along with the name of the author, the title of the book, the page number, etc., that you're picking it up from. So that will help you in processing the information correctly when you finally sit down to write your own paper. Next is organize logically in a linear manner. So linear organization is also very important. You must have come across research papers where the thoughts are very haphazard. So it starts with one point and suddenly there's a second point raised and the author goes back to the first point again. So there is no clarity. Lack of clarity can happen because of multiple reasons. Not organizing the thoughts logically is one of them, and not presenting the thoughts in a linear manner is the second. So there can be multiple reasons. You will come to know about it gradually. So logical organization, logical transition of thoughts, linear organization is very important. So when I say logical transition of thoughts, what do I mean? You should start from point A, then go to point B, then go to point C, instead of going to A to C to Z to, that should be avoided completely because it is going to disrupt the flow of your argument. Next is incorporating facts, very important, as we were talking about it a while ago, that any academic writing, whether you're writing a dissertation or you're writing a thesis or you're simply writing a research proposal, it is important that you add facts, you add findings, you add figures, you add data. So what does it do? It does two things. The first is it gives the impression to the other person that these are not your subjective opinions. You have not said it just because you feel it. You have ample data to support your viewpoint. And the second thing is that by incorporating facts and figures, you are substantiating your argument. So if I say that the country was partitioned in 1947, and then I add 2 or 3 paper cuttings or other data to support the argument that it was actually partitioned in this country and so many people lost their life, there were material losses, so on and so forth, and I add numbers. So this will help the readers to actually gauge or assess the magnanimity of that bifurcation. I hope I'm making sense to everyone. Okay, next, moving on, the correct terminology is very important. Sometimes, I think Shivani raised this point really well. Sometimes what happens is that in a research paper, a person uses 1 paragraph or 2 paragraphs to explain a point, which could be very well be, substituted with 1 synonym. So if I say that the character was in a ruffled state of mind and he was feeling very uncomfortable with his surrounding. There was an inner turmoil which was going on. He was not able to express himself. I can simply say the character was feeling anxious. So in that way, just by using, this is an example, just by using the correct terminology, you can save a lot of space, and you can also make it easier for the readers to understand what you're trying to say. Correct grammar and spelling, and catering to the readers. So catering to the readers is very important. Gurjeet talked about this point in the beginning itself, that the purpose is different. When I talk about narrative writing, for example, I'm writing a short story. I'm writing a short story because I want to express my views on a particular topic. I want to create characters and I want to express how I feel about those characters or how my characters see the world. So that kind of a writing is called narrative writing, and the purpose why I'm writing is very different. I want to cater to readers who are interested in creative writing. People who are more interested in academic writing might not read that short story. Whereas on the other hand, if I say academic writing, if I'm writing a research paper, the target audience is very different. I'm going to target scholars, I'm going to target academicians, I'm going to target people who are in the literature domain. So you have to be very clear on who your readers are. Are you writing it for children? Are you writing it for young scholars, or you're writing it for seasoned academicians? So that makes a lot of difference. So these are some of the key elements of good academic writing. There are many more, and you have a number of resource persons who are going to delve on those elements later. Now, after talking about academic writing and elements of academic writing, let us look at the different approaches towards writing. Now, by now, you must be wondering that, okay, we have a fair idea of what is academic writing. We also know how we can improve our academic writing. But are there different approaches we can take towards academic writing? What are the stepping stones that we can use to improve academic writing? Well, there are three different approaches that you can take in order to improve your academic writing. The first is called as product approach. Now, what is a product approach? Has anyone got an idea of what a product approach is? If yes, please raise your hand. All right, no problem. So let us look at it. Product writing is an approach to writing that lays stress on the final production, that is the text that students are asked to produce. Now, what does the sentence mean? Imagine when we were all young kids, we used to have picture books. On the left-hand side was a picture that was drawn and colored. And on the other side, there used to be just the outline. We were asked to imitate the picture on the other side and color it by looking at the picture which was ready. This can be used as an example to understand the product approach. When I say product approach to writing, it simply means that the final product or the text that the students or the scholars are asked to produce is more important. What happens in a product approach? Let us look at it. Product approach follows the following step. The first is model text. The second is controlled practice. The third is organization of ideas. The fourth is writing. And finally, the end product. In product approach, a model text is given to the students. So if I have to ask you to write about, say, a train journey, and I give you a write-up on a bus journey, you read it, you understand how to write it, the basics of writing about a travel. You use it as a model text and you imitate a part of it and produce your own text. So a model text will be given to you to imitate, in which you will primarily focus on the language, organization of ideas, vocabulary, phrases, etc. used in the model text. You will use it as a blueprint and then you will try to write your own text. So model text is very important in product approach. Next comes is controlled practice. Now, because you already have a model to look at, to read, to imitate up to a certain extent, the practice becomes very controlled. You can control your idea, you can control your expression, you know how to write it now exactly. So the practice becomes much more controlled than asking a student to write something on his or her own.
Yes, whatever you are explaining is very good, but the problem is the screen that you are sharing is not of very good quality. Like there is, no, it's the screen is somewhat blurred. We are not very able, we are not able to see properly whatever it is written on your screen.
Okay, so
if you request your IT team,
Nihal, I'm going to share this PPT with all of you, so I think that will solve the purpose. As long as I'm clearly audible, I think there shouldn't be any problem. So that must be because of a technical issue. But can you all hear me clearly, Nihal?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
All right. Okay. So let us move on. As I was saying that we have a model text to imitate in a product approach, and the practice or writing part is much more controlled as compared to writing on your own. The third is organization of idea. Now, it is very easy to understand if you have a model, if you have a prototype, if you have an example in front of you, then you are able to organize your idea, the flow of your idea, the transition of your thought becomes more controlled, it becomes more organized, and you will not have ideas from here and there. So when you will produce your final text, it wouldn't appear as a patchwork. It will not seem as if you have picked up one idea from one point and the other from other, because you have a prototype, you have a model. Then comes your writing part. You start writing using that dummy or that model as your stepping stone, and then comes the end product. So in a nutshell, product approach is an approach to writing where the stress is on your final product, how well you can write if you have a model text in front of you. Now, like every situation in the world, product approach has pros as well as cons. Now, I'm going to talk about the pros first. What are the positive points of a product approach? Now, it is good for beginners. Some students feel really rattled if they are bombarded with too much information. I'm sure a few students here must be wondering that this is too much of information to grasp. This happens with every one of us. So for beginners, it's good that you give them a model text. So this helps them build their confidence, and they also get an idea, and gradually they develop a way to write. And then it can be used for large number of people. So if there is a batch of say 50 students, so each student will have a different style of writing. So to begin with, it's better that a model text is given to all of them, and they can all produce almost similar text related to that. As a beginner's approach, this is good. Now, what are the disadvantages? The disadvantages are that it discourages creativity. If I have given a model text to a student who's capable of writing much better than that model text, so indirectly it is discouraging the creativity or the critical thinking or the thought process of that student. So this is one of the major disadvantages of product approach. And apart from that, it also devalues the potential of a candidate. So by giving you a model or by giving you a dummy text, what I'm trying to assert in a way is that maybe you don't have the potential to write it. So that is why product approach is advisable only for the beginners up to some extent. This should not be made a habit. This is the first approach to write, product approach. Okay, next we move on to, sorry for the technical glitch. They say the best thing with technology is that it works sometimes. Anyway, next approach to writing is process approach. Now we've already looked at product approach. What is process approach? Process writing is an approach where students focus on the method, mind you, method by which they produce their written piece rather than the piece itself. So this is in a way opposite of product approach. Here, instead of the end product, writing is seen as a creative act or a critical act, and it is seen as an act which takes time and which invites a feedback. So the process becomes very important here. What you are writing is not as important as how you are writing, in short. So process writing is an approach where the focus is on the method rather than what is the end product. This in no way means that the end product is not important. It is. But here, what is important is the way you are writing. Now, what are the different steps that are involved in process approach? So process approach involves the following, that is pre-writing, focusing ideas, and structuring and editing. So the first procedure is pre-writing. Here, it simply means that you have to work on multiple drafts. When you write one draft after the other, you will be able to see the evolution yourself, the improvement yourself. So pre-writing simply means you have to jot down your primary ideas. For example, you want to write a research paper on absurd theater or Indian English drama. So you have to write about your primary ideas. Whatever comes to your mind, first of all, just jot down those points. That will make your pre-writing. After your pre-writing is done, then you have to structure your thoughts. And how would you structure your thoughts? There are two ways to do it. The first is you read up about the topic. You see what are the studies that have been conducted on those topics. What are the different areas that have been explored as far as the text is concerned. After that, you can also start making your own points. What is your personal understanding about the topic? And both joined together will finally constitute your writing. So after pre-writing comes your writing. As a written focus on ideas. So ideas becomes important. You have to write in a focused manner. After the pre-writing is your writing, then revising. When you revise, you would see that there are many jarring flaws which you must have missed during your pre-writing session. And after writing, revising, rearranging your thought comes your structuring and editing. So whenever you finish writing a research paper, the best is that you have to put it aside for some time, because once we are in flow of writing, we miss things that are just on the surface. So some of the flaws, spelling errors, grammatical errors, sometimes even thematic errors, we will overlook them because we are so much in the flow of writing. So after you pre-write and you write, you revise your draft, you rearrange your thoughts again, then comes your editing part. Before you send it for publication, it is the best thing that you edit it yourself. And if you feel that you're not able to edit it properly, or maybe you are missing on some of the flaws that there are, you can also send it to an editor who can help you edit your paper or your book, whatever it is, and then you rewrite. After structuring and editing, you rewrite the whole paper again. And this is how different processes are involved in this approach. So what are those processes? Pre-writing, then you come to writing, then you revise, then you rearrange, then you edit, and then finally you write your end product. This is your process approach. Now, what are the pros and cons of process approach? Would anybody like to answer? Would anyone like to answer the pros and cons of process approach? What, according to you, can be the positive and the negative side to this approach? Please raise your hand. Yes, Utkarsh.
Ma'am, am I audible?
Yes, yes, you are.
So I think again the same thing, like when you said that there is so much focus on the method, I think that that is somehow curbing the creativity. Not always, but at some level we might put the ideas, we might put the methods primarily, and then we might think that, oh, maybe our ideas and our whatever we are thinking creatively might not go well with this method. So that is why, in that sense.
Okay, so fine, that is a negative side to this. Can you also tell me what can be the positive to this approach?
Ma'am, I feel like that it will be way more formal, and if like a large number of body is writing with that same method, I think it will be a lot easier for the reader to understand and what to expect.
All right, so that is right, Utkarsh. It is going to be more organized for sure, because you are writing your paper in so many steps. But at the same time, just like in the product approach, the focus is on the end product. Similarly, here the focus is more on the process. So because you are too preoccupied with the pre-writing, writing, revising, rearranging, editing, that the end product that you receive might come out as extremely tailor-made, so to say, or just a cut-out piece. So that organic nature might be missing. Nihal, you had raised your hand.
Yes, now I am unmuted, ma'am. Okay,
Yes.
I think in process approach, our research paper would definitely be more qualitative as compared to the product approach. And the negative aspect that I can see is it will definitely take way more time, like writing first draft, second draft, then editing, then final draft. It will take a way longer than we expect to. We can expect, like it will take a very it will take a very large amount of time to write any kind of research paper while writing the process approach, while following the process approach. Thank you, ma'am.
Definitely, that's a very relevant point. Yes, it is more time consuming than product approach. That's right. Yes, Shivani.
Ma'am, adding on to what Nihal said, I think another point is that we'll never be satisfied with the outcome of process approach. like we'll always have a tendency to keep rewriting it and keep making it better, that ultimately it might lose the, you know, the meaning or the whole purpose of writing the paper will be gone, because we'll never be satisfied with the final product. So this can be both a pro and a con, because for perfectionists, they believe that their work is never good enough. So this is like a never-ending process, and it'll keep going on.
Yeah, so this in a way connects to Nihal's point that it is time consuming. So you're absolutely right. When we have to follow so many steps, then there is always a feeling that maybe it can get better. And that feeling will hamper the productivity for sure. And it can make us miss the deadlines. Okay, all right. Next, we come to the last approach, which is integrated approach. Now, what is an integrated approach? So far, we have a thought and process approach. Now we're going to talk about integrated approach. Integrated approach is one in which students learn by realizing the interconnectedness and the relationship between curriculum ideas. And what are the different types of integrated approach? We're going to discuss these types later. First of all, can anyone tell me what have you understood by the first point? It is an approach which looks at the interconnectedness or interrelationships. Can anyone tell me?
Interconnectedness or interrelationships can be seen in terms of ideas, or can be seen about the two approaches which we just did. We can also focus on whether we have to go about the qualitative part itself or the quantitative part itself. And in this particular approach, we can combine all of it and work on in more balanced way.
Okay, that's right. Would anybody like to add something to what Nishtha said? Okay, let me reframe the question. Why do you think is blending the two approaches that we've just discussed is important? What positive outcome would you find if we mix the product and process approach?
Yes, ma'am. It can help us to meet up with the disadvantages of both the things. Like someone has said that, you know, the end process is being generally ignored when we talk about the process approach. But when we are going to do the integrated one, so in this, we will be taking care of our ideas along with the flow and along with the end result. Like we will be having a balanced format for it rather than just having problem here and there.
Okay, all right. Okay, fine. So integrated approach in a way means combining both the approaches that we've discussed. Instead of delving just on the end product or bothering about the process, it asks for some balance between the two. See, when I say you have to produce a good research paper, it doesn't mean that you shouldn't focus on the process at all, or you should just think about the end product. You should just think about producing a research paper which is better than the research paper of the others, because it will come through only and only if you follow the process properly. If you write multiple drafts, if you edit properly, if you structure it properly, if you substantiate it with evidence, if the data that you've used is verifiable, if it is not a subjective approach. So all these points together will make it an integrated approach, and it will make your research paper much better. Now, what are the different ways in which you can incorporate an integrated approach? The first is collaborative learning. The second is inquiry-based learning. And the third is cooperative learning. Can anyone tell me what is collaborative learning? Whatever your first impressions are of this word, you don't have to Google or anything. The first impression that you get when I say collaborative learning. Yes, please. Who's this? 09D1D357. Please unmute yourself.
Ma'am, it's Labhya.
Yes.
Ma'am, collaborative learning might include learning in a group.
Okay.
Yes.
What happens there exactly?
Ma'am, sharing what one learns, what one studies or what one learns with the other group members, and discuss, and doing the study sessions in a discursive form.
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, collaborative learning is mostly like peer learning, where teacher only works as a facilitator, and teacher prompts students to answer, and they learn from each other. Like they redefine the question, they share answers with each other, and that's how the learning progresses.
Monica, is that collaborative learning or cooperative learning?
Ma'am, isn't it collaborative learning?
Well, cooperative learning is in a way collaborative learning. Fine.
Okay.
Anyone
Okay.
else? Collaborative learning? So collaborative learning simply means an approach towards a situation where people work together. So a group of 2 or 3 or maybe more students, they work together to solve a problem or to complete an assignment or to brainstorm about a particular problem or to give their points towards a research paper or anything. So it is simply learning of new ideas or new concepts together. So that is when you work in collaboration, when you work in groups, when you work together, that is collaborative learning. So this in a way facilitates exchange of different ideas. It is more dynamic as compared to the other two approaches. So when 3 or 4 people are sitting together, definitely they will not have the same views on a given topic. So exchange of views might lead to conflict and it might lead to agreement, disagreement. So this in a way makes you think more. And when you think more, you're able to produce a work which is better than just unidimensional or single focus thinking. This is collaborative learning. Next is inquiry-based learning. What can this be? This is simple. I would request students to raise their hand. Maybe somebody who's not spoken till now can raise his or her hand. What is inquiry-based learning? Yes, Sudhanshu?
Ma'am, it is a kind of case history that is data taken from many participants like this.
Okay.
Like a feedback.
Yes, so data shared by different people is collated. Okay, that is one way of inquiry-based learning. Anyone else? Any more responses? Yes, Shivani?
Ma'am, I think that in inquiry-based learning, when a group of people are together, they form the answer or they formulate the paper by asking questions to each other, focusing on what, where, why, how, and when, so that you get integrated form of approach where the ideas of all the members are given equal importance.
Okay, that's right. So both of you are right in one way or the other. When I say inquiry, it simply means investigation. And how do we investigate? We investigate by asking questions. We investigate by comparison. So this is one way. You can ask everyone to give their feedback or to give their viewpoints about a particular topic, and then you can compare and contrast. The other way is that if you've done some pre-writing already on the topic, everyone can pitch in, everyone can share their viewpoints, you can compare, and then you can come to a conclusion. So you inquire, you investigate, you ask, you exchange your opinions about a certain topic, and that's how you start writing your academic work. Next, we have cooperative learning. What can that be? Cooperative learning. Anyone? Cooperative learning is one of the oldest ways in which students are taught. Okay, so cooperative learning is nothing. It simply means that dividing a bigger group or a larger bunch into small parts. Now, can you tell me what is the advantage of dividing a classroom of students or a big batch of students into smaller groups? Can it help them in any way? Yes, Ali?
Ma'am, in the form of group discussions.
In the form of group discussion. Okay, so what does that do?
Ma'am, like in the form of group discussions, we can get to know the viewpoints of others, right? In this way.
Okay. All right. Yes, Samya?
In a small group of students, it is easier to cooperate with each other and therefore work as a team,
Yes.
rather than in a big classroom.
Yes. So when a bigger bunch is divided into smaller groups, the first thing is you are able to listen to each other's viewpoints in a, you can say, more clearly. So everyone is able to express themselves without any inhibitions. You're able to listen to everybody's viewpoint. You're able to share whatever you feel about a particular topic. And in a way, it gives you confidence. So you cooperate with each other. That is what cooperative learning is. I want one of you to just sum up these three types of learning. Can anyone do it? Please volunteer. Anybody who in just 1 or 2 lines can tell us about the three types of learnings that we've just discussed. Shivani, would you like to do it?
Okay, ma'am. Ma'am, so the three types of approach are product approach, process approach, and integrated approach. In product approach, it's basically like looking and coloring in the form, it's like imitation. And there are 5 main ways by which we can go about the product approach. It is the model text, control practice, organization of ideas, finally writing them down, and then we get the end products. In the process approach, there is a focus on the method rather than the piece of the product, or I mean, rather than the final product. So there are 3 ways by which process approach can be taken forth. First one is pre-writing, second one is focusing the idea, and the third one is structuring and editing. In process approach, the main aim is that we keep on writing until we get the final idea and until we are satisfied. So the only con is that it is quite time consuming. The third one is the integrated approach. There are 3 steps to it. First one is collaborative learning, in which a group of people come together and they.
No, ma'am, she is not audible.
Okay, I thought the problem is at my end. Okay, yes, Samya, would you like to just continue? Maybe you can throw some light on the last approach.
Okay, ma'am, I think I should try. So the integrated approach, basically, first of all, I would like to start by saying, according to me, actually, integrated approach is the best approach of writing a research paper. And there are 3 types of integrated approach. First is collaborative, second is inquiry based, and third is cooperative. So collaborative learning is basically when we start learning by doing collaboration. Collaboration, it can have collaboration can be, our collaboration can be with some teacher whom we are very friendly with. Maybe he will not maybe he might not be teaching me directly, so because in the different classes are divided into different sections. But sometimes what happens, like our favorite teacher might not be teaching us directly in our particular section, so we can do collaboration after with him or with after the class or after the school time, and we can learn the various aspects whatever we are facing problem in. The second point is inquiry based learning. Inquiry based learning is more of an investigative type of learning. Like which I think we should try to learn with the help of our critical thinking skills. Like we should always try to learn something with the help of our critical thinking. Like we should not grasp anything directly, or we should try to analyze everything properly, and then only we should take it or leave it according to our critical thinking skills. And the third is cooperative learning. Cooperative learning is obviously it's the most common it's the most common type of learning. And cooperative learning, I think I will just take 30 seconds or 40 seconds to express, because I have already taken the help of cooperative learning in my own class. Like I am assistant professor in ad hoc. I am assistant professor on ad hoc basis in Government Polytechnic College, Gaya. What I did it, because students are allotted in practical classes. Students are advised to develop their public speaking skills. Now, obviously, I'm teaching Bihar, and you can see in Bihar generally, English speaking skills of people are generally very, very poor. So it would have taken a lot of time of mine to focus on each and every student. So what I did it, I divided the students in 6 or 7 groups, and what I did it, in every group I selected one student who is generally good in public speaking skill, and I gave him the task, or maybe some girl, I gave him or her the task of developing public speaking skills among the students of that particular group. So what I found was that after 1 month or after 2 months, most of the students have developed their public speaking skills in a very good way, in a very efficient way. So even without giving much effort from my side. So I think cooperative learning should be encouraged in India's schools and colleges. And I think it's the best type of learning. You can say in primary schools or secondary schools or even in college also. Thank you, ma'am.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. And as I said, this is one of the oldest, but it has not got its due credit, cooperative learning, and it should definitely be made a habit at primary level itself. All right. So with that, we come to the end of this PPT. I will stop sharing my screen now. Okay, so Dhanshu says, any solution of paraphrasing during write-up? So Dhanshu, you want me to talk about paraphrasing? Is that so?
Yes, ma'am.
What exactly?
Ma'am, whenever we writing a thesis, or actually I am working at the Amity University Jaipur as a PhD scholar. So whenever we are writing or we are using a synonyms word, so there is a non-continuous meaning of that particular line. So ma'am, what is the solution for that?
What exactly is your question, Sudhanshu?
Ma'am, actually, whenever we are writing, so there is some kinds of plagiarism is there in the some one line or two line.
Okay.
So when we are going to use some words synonyms in place of existing word, so that will not reflect in continuity of that particular line, ma'am. So what is the solution for that?
I think you're talking about plagiarism. See, first of all, I should say that we have really misunderstood the word paraphrasing. So students, when we ask them to paraphrase, what they do is they reproduce the text as it is and just change a word here and there, and they call it paraphrasing. Well, that's not what paraphrasing is. Paraphrasing means if you have read a paragraph, you interpret it in a certain way, then you write it down in your own language. And that is how you express that particular paragraph, your understanding of that particular paragraph. If you are picking something up from an online source and you're just pasting it and you think you will change a word or two, you will use a synonym for a particular word and still it will show as plagiarized data, that is going to happen. And in fact, as research scholar, the focus should be on original thinking instead of picking up something which is already there. Definitely, we are going to take help from the already existing sources, but that is only to streamline our own understanding of a particular topic, not because we want to add pages to our study. The very word research means to search again, to think about it again, to look at it from a fresh perspective. Have I answered your question, Sudhanshu?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am.
All right. Okay. So Khushbu says, I want to ask about songwriting. Could you please tell me how can I do my songwriting better? Khushbu, songwriting falls under creative writing and not academic writing. But definitely I will help you, but that will be outside this session. Nihal says, don't you think product approach has way more disadvantages than advantages, and it should be discouraged even for the beginners? And for beginners, it's time that we should look for some other approach. You are right, Nihal, but at the same time, I think if we will completely do away with product approach, it in a way would mean that we are homogenizing everyone. We are thinking that everyone is at par with each other. So as we know that in a class or otherwise also, it's always a heterogeneous group. Some people might be very comfortable with public speaking or writing, the others may not be. So I think for the sake of uniformity and to develop confidence in the students who are maybe not as confident as the others, product approach is important. It shouldn't be discarded completely. Samya says, in collaborative learning, can a student learn with a professor outside of their own country? How can a student approach any teacher helping them writing an academic paper? How can a student approach a teacher? Well, that depends on how comfortable the teacher is. If he or she is comfortable Through email exchange, you can do that, or you can talk to the teacher over phone, or you can sit face to face and discuss. That is totally the kind of comfort level the teacher has when he or she is helping you in an academic paper. When you say in collaborative learning, can a student learn with a professor outside of their own country? Yes, they can. That will also fall under the category of collaborative learning. If there are more questions, please type it here. Okay, so I don't see any new question. In that case, let me ask all of you a question. What are some of the major problems that you encounter when you write a research paper? I'm sure everyone will have a different answer. So let us take some common problems so that it can be helpful for the other people who are going to take the sessions from now on to address those issues. Raise your hand and you can talk directly instead of writing it here. Yes, Samya.
Ma'am, one of the basic problems that I face whenever I'm writing an academic paper is the thought coherence. When we are writing an academic paper, it needs to be stick to a particular, like I'll give you an example. When we were selecting the topic for our NTCC paper, it was folklore and folktale. But under this section, we had to select a particular thing, a particular book, and we had to write a paper on that. So it is a little bit difficult to gather all the information and put it in a straight line, rather than it sometimes it seems like it's getting scattered, the scattering of thought. To control that, to maintain the coherence in the research paper, it gets a little bit messy at times and a little bit difficult.
Okay, Samya, what you're saying are two different things as far as I've understood. The first thing is you said that you wanted to talk about folklore, but you were asked to boil it down to a particular text. I will answer that part first. It is very important because you cannot deal with an umbrella topic as such. That will be too ambitious for a research paper. For example, I want to talk about Indian English writing, and I simply say human issues in Indian English writing. Well, that is a vast area. So I will be advised by my supervisor to boil it down to a particular text, start with maybe 2 or 3 texts at a time, and then go on to talk about different texts. So that is very important so that your idea can be focused. If I say Indian English writing, or if I say American novel, or I say African writing, so the scope is really huge and you will not be able to do justice. That is the first part. So boiling down is important. Picking up 1 or 2 texts in that domain is very important so that you can do justice. The second thing you said is the lack of coherence. Well, this is what is going to be discussed in the sessions after this. To write a coherent paper, the first and foremost thing is that you have to work on your first draft. Sometimes what we want is that we should sit and the very first draft that we generate should be a final draft. That doesn't happen because we all are students of literature. We know about stream of consciousness. They say that human mind has thoughts, and it is not like a series of gig lamps organized in a flow. It is like a halo. So the thoughts come to us in different ways, and sometimes it is not possible to achieve that coherence in the first or the second draft. But gradually, as you work through your drafts, you will see the coherence. So the first draft is going to be just about what you feel about that text or at a very primary level. But once you will read more about it, you will gather more information, you will generate your own ideas, you will work on your second draft, you will find the coherence coming in. So I would advise that you be patient with yourself and do not criticize your writing at all. That is something I want to tell all the students here. Sometimes we become too critical of our work, that this is not as good as what he or she has written. This is something which must be avoided. We are all scholars of literature. We learn gradually. So that coherence will come with practice. Does that answer your question, Samya? Okay. Any more questions?
Shweta, have you seen all the questions that are there listed here in the Q&A? You've seen all of them, right?
Yes, ma'am. So Nishtha has concerns about vocabulary and punctuations. Well, Nishtha, you'll be very happy to know that there is a whole session which is devoted only to vocabulary and punctuations. So it will be taken care of. The importance of vocabulary in a research paper and why punctuations cannot be compromised with, etc., will be all dealt in detail. So would anybody else like to share his or her views on the problems that you encounter while writing a research paper? Yes, Tanya.
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, what happens with me is that, obviously, before doing research, we come across so many research papers and articles and essays which are already written about the subject that we are aspiring to research about. So what happens with me is that my mindset is not very rigid. It's not that I have a specific thought process that, okay, this is what I'm going to do. So when I come across so many research papers, I come across so many ideas, and to my own surprise, I find all those ideas very relevant. And so I sometimes I just get confused. So coming across so many ideas, they confuse me. So I'm like, okay, so what was my idea? Then how should I pick and choose, what to do and what not to do? So it's like I find relevance everywhere. For me, every article, every point, every aspect is very relevant. So I think it in turn becomes very confusing.
Okay, so Tanya, they say confusion is a sign of genius. So if you have everything figured out, I think that is more problematic than being confused. When you're confused, it means that your mind is thinking. Now, let me talk about the question that you just raised. It happens with most of us when we are, as I said, bombardment of information. We read a lot, and in the process, we miss out the very point with which we started. There are two ways to approach the situation. The first is you read and then you try to convince yourself that which, according to you, is the most relevant argument of all this. Write it down and let it sit for a while and then give it a thought again. Approach it from a fresh perspective. The other thing is that if you're not able to do it, then stick to your topic. For example, if you want to talk about, say, women-centric issues in the poetry of Imtiaz Dharkar. Now, one thing is for sure, you don't want to talk about the identity crisis. You don't want to talk about the transcultural experience. You don't want to talk about the different cultures and the problems that they raise. You don't want to talk about the, Muslim family and women there that she comes from, her personal details. All what you want to look at is the feminist approach or the women-centric issues. So that in a way sieves out half of the information that you have read. I'm just telling you if you want to begin writing. So this is not something which is going to help you when in the longer run, but to begin with, the thing is just sieve out the information. So you have to be very focused that I want to look at the women-centric issues in the poetic corpus of Imtiaz Dharkar. So in a way, a lot of information is gone. Then you can pick up a few good research papers that are talking about the feminist concern in the poetic corpus of Imtiaz Dharkar. And then you ask yourself that what is my viewpoint? Do I agree with the idea of this writer? If not, then put it aside. Then you will find that there are just 3 or 4 good works that are available, which are in sync with your idea or which you feel are really informative. Then you can work on those. Is that okay, Tanya?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. And ma'am, one more thing, there's another thing that I'm concerned about, and that is there are certain topics, certain areas of research that are very, sensitive in nature. Okay. So what happens is that while, following a particular thought process or, considering a specific ideology, what happens is that there may be a tendency that we are offending or, going against the other ideology. So with change in time, we see that ideologies, they develop and, we reject the previous ideologies and we try to imbibe the new ones. So how should we as researchers deal with criticism and the criticism of thought? How should we deal with it?
See, you are right. There are certain topics, and if I were to name a few, then the topics related to gender, topics related to religion, topics related to sexual orientation, these are actually sensitive topics. And if you're dealing with any of these topics, then you have to be doubly sure that whatever you are writing doesn't hurt the sentiment of a particular section. Now, that is easy said than done, because sometimes we are convinced that what we're saying is right, but the other person might not take it in the same spirit. So as far as criticism, when you say ideology, again, there is a problem. There's a difference between ideology and your viewpoint about certain things. When you say ideology, a sort of rigidity comes into play. When you say that this is my ideology, I'm driven by this ideology, it means you strictly believe in that institution, in that setup, and come what may, you're not going to change your viewpoint. But when you say that my point of view about this topic is so and so, it means that you're open to different ideas. You are open to, the viewpoints of others also. And if you feel that your own point stands defeated, you will be more than happy to imbibe it. That is the difference. When you say ideology, I believe that you're already using a word which might not go down well with a lot of people. So as I gave you example, race, gender, sexual orientation, these are really sensitive topics. If you want to deal with them, you have to be very sure that each word that you're writing is correct in every sense, emotionally, politically. So that has to be taken care of.
Absolutely, ma'am. Thank you so much, ma'am. I got it.
Okay. Any more responses? Yes, Samya?
Ma'am, I have a question.
Yes.
In literary criticism, on
Samya,
Aristotle.
your voice was cracking. Please repeat your question.
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, I was writing a paper in literary criticism on Aristotle's Poetics. So there was this topic of catharsis, this term of catharsis, and I wrote a research paper on that, which was presenting a point of view of the actors who were acting on the stage rather than the audience who feel it. So I drafted the whole research paper and I wrote about it. And just when I was writing about it, I read a research paper online. Because without reading the research papers online, I started writing about it. And then I thought that I should add some more points to it. Maybe I can find some points among the other authors who have written on the same, maybe. And I saw that the idea that I was presenting in my paper, it was as same as the idea of somebody else has written in her paper. So ma'am, how do we deal with this? Does it mean that we are copying the idea of somebody? But actually I was not copying the idea of somebody. I was writing this research paper on my own. So somehow whenever we write about a certain topic, we find that somebody else has written the same point of view, same thing about the topic that you have selected. So how do we deal with this?
Okay, Samya, I am afraid to inform that it cannot be avoided completely. In fact, this is one of the concerns that all of us as scholars have. So when we start with our research work, the first concern that we have is, what if it's already said? What if I'm not adding anything new to the already existing body of knowledge? How am I going to justify this research at all? But what I was told by my mentor was, no two people can say the same thing in the same way. So all of us know that a table is a table, but the way person A will look at it versus person B will look and present it is going to be different. So you say that you talked about the catharsis of the characters instead of the audience, and you thought that it was a revolutionary idea. Because when we say catharsis, we are very quick to conclude that catharsis means purgation of emotions on the part of the audience when they look at the action on the stage. They go through this purgation of emotions. But what about the actors? They get so involved in their roles that they might also go through catharsis. So you thought it was really different. But as you say that you found something very similar online. So that is bound to happen. All what I would say is that you be honest to your work and just read and try to add as much as you can. Be honest. If you thought of it on your own, then just don't let it go because somebody has already said it. That is going to happen. Isn't it? There is such a rich corpus of research that is already existing before us. So we can't really come up with an extremely revolutionary or path-breaking idea which nobody has ever thought of. But that shouldn't deter us as scholars.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you so much.
Okay, so with that, we've also come to the end of the session. And I hope it was helpful for all of you. And there are so many other sessions which are going to follow, and you will come to know of more relevant things about academic writing. Whatever your questions are, please write it down and ask whoever the resource person is. And with that, we will end this session with the permission of Professor Vinita Prasad.